Good afternoon, Year 6. So yesterday, for a bit of a change-up, I asked you to record yourselves reading for once and to send them in. And I just wanted to say a massive thank you and a big well done to all of those children that did that. I know it can be a little bit scary having yourself recorded whilst you're reading. I find it a little bit scary when I do this because you think, oh, am I going to make a mistake or mess up? But you all did really, really well, and it was so lovely to hear some of you reading. If you didn't get a chance to do it yesterday, that's okay. Maybe try it today, okay? Or tomorrow. You can send me in videos of you reading whenever you feel like it. I will always be really grateful to receive those videos. And remember, no one else can see it apart from me unless you've given me permission to share it on Google Classrooms. Okay, so moving on to Pig Heart Boy. We reached a new part in our book, didn't we? A part called Consequences. Now, the last part that we read, which was on Friday, no, it wasn't, it was on Monday, Cameron had gone to the pool and he'd done the daredevil dive and he'd reached the bottom of the pool, but he realised that he wasn't sure whether he'd make it to the top. Now, luckily, Marlon was with him, so we made a few predictions. And again, thank you to all those children that sent in their predictions of what they think was going to happen next. Let's find out. So this is chapter 25, Walking on the Moon. When I opened my eyes, I was lying flat, and a brilliant white light was blinding me. I thought I was dead, I really did, until I heard a scraping sound beside me, and then Dad's anguished face swam into focus above my own. I smiled at him, but he didn't seem to see it. He stared at me, misery clouding his eyes. I tried to speak, to tell him I was glad to see him, but my mouth didn't seem to want to work. I'm all right, Dad. I hoped my eyes told him what my mouth could not. In fact, I was better than all right. I was alive. The rest could wait. I closed my eyes and fell asleep. When I woke up, Mum, Dad, Nan, Dr. Erklich and Dr. Bryce were all standing around my bed. What happened? I whispered, confused. Then I remembered the swimming pool. How did I get out of the pool? Marlon saved your life, Mum told me, her expression grim. Oh, first Dr. Bryce, then Marlon. I tried to laugh, but my throat was still hurting. It's not funny, Cameron, said Dad. When you get out of here, you and I are going to have a long talk. And at that, Mum burst into tears. Mum, don't cry. Please don't cry. I tried to sit up, but I didn't have 1 gram of strength in my body. Mum, you'll upset Alex, I pleaded. Please don't cry. I'm okay now. Really, I am. Cameron, Dr. Bryce began. He and Dad looked at each other across my bed, and I knew in that instant what was coming. Cameron, your body is rejecting your new heart. Is that why I've been feeling tired and sick? How long have you felt like that? Dr. Bryce asked me sharply. Just a week or so. Why on earth didn't you say? Why didn't you tell me the truth yesterday? We could have taken you into hospital. We could have amended your anti-rejection drug therapy earlier. Dr. Bryce said, distraught. That was exactly why I hadn't said anything. I needed to finish what I'd started. It's not his fault, it's yours, Mum rounded on Dr. Bryce. Why did it take you a week to get the results of his last blood tests? The first set of results got contaminated, Dr. Bryce answered. We had to run all the tests again. Mum, it's okay, I smiled. It wouldn't have made any difference. You don't know that, said Dad. And yes, he was right. I didn't know that. Not for sure. But I felt I was right. So, what happens now? I whispered. Do you give me more anti-rejection drugs? I don't think we can do that. It would just postpone the inevitable. Your heart is fighting a losing battle. The only way forward now is to have another heart transplant, he said. And we have to act within the next few days before you become too weak to survive the surgery. Another pig heart transplant? I asked. Yes, of course. Is that the only way? Asked Dad. I'm afraid so. I don't think Cameron's heart will last into the new year otherwise, said Dr. Bryce. I smiled at him. I liked the way he was as blunt as ever. The poor man didn't look any happier than my mum or dad. I realised that his brusque manner was his way of coping with things. He must have been through a lot with all the abuse he'd received over the years, with all the abuse he was probably still receiving. How's the other heart transplant patient doing? I asked. She's doing fine. It took her longer to recover than you, but now she's making excellent progress, Dr. Bryce replied. Good, I'm glad. And I was. I'd hate for all your research to have to stop now. Dr. Bryce turned to Mum and Dad. I've spoken to the senior registrar here, and she reckons Cameron can probably go home tomorrow, Saturday or Sunday at the very latest. I think if we arrange for Cameron to come back up to the clinic on Tuesday, we'll schedule the surgery for Wednesday and... Dr. Bryce, I don't want another transplant operation. Dr. Bryce wasn't the only one who was shocked by my words. He frowned deeply. What are you talking about? I don't want another operation. Why not? Cameron, what are you saying? Cameron, you can't give up now. Cameron, have you thought about this? The only one who didn't jump down my throat was Nan. Mum, Dad, I don't want another transplant, I said. It's hard to explain this, but... Try, Mum said immediately. It really was strange the way things worked out. Mum had been so against the operation at the beginning, and now she was the one really pushing me to have another one. Would it make a difference if your second transplant was from a human donor rather than a pig? Dr. Erklich asked me. No, I replied at once. No difference at all. Then why not? Asked Mum. Dr. Bryce, if I had the second operation, how long would I have to take all those drugs you've been giving me? Probably for the rest of your life. But isn't it worth it if they keep you alive? But they're making me sick, and I'm beginning to get tired all the time, I said quietly. It's like before my operation. But as I said, we can fine-tune the dosage until we hit upon a drug regimen. One second. Sorry about that. But as I said, we can fine-tune the dosage until we hit upon a drug regimen that suits you, Dr. Bryce argued. But I don't want the rest of my life to be made up of pills and powders and injections and nothing else. I don't want to feel sick and tired all the time. That won't necessarily happen, said Dr. Erklich. But the second transplant has less chance of succeeding than the first. Dad frowned. Where did you hear that? I read it on the internet, I said. You can't believe everything you read, Dad told me. You know that. Yes, I know that, but a while ago, Mum said something about me being special. She told me that I'm not just special because of my heart, and I shouldn't think that. But I began to. I began to think that my new heart was all I was. That's why I wanted to touch the bottom of the swimming pool, to prove to myself that I was something more. Dr. Bryce shook his head. I don't understand. I'm not sure I understand myself, I admitted. All I know is it's the quality of your life that counts, not the quantity. I've been very lucky so far, and thank you for everything you did for me, Dr. Bryce. I really do appreciate it. But enough is enough. I want my life back, even if it's only for another few months. And what about Alex? Mum asked. I'm going to try to hang on long enough to see her or him. After that, whatever happens, happens. So you're going to give up? Dr. Erklich said. Of course he isn't. He just wants to fight it in his own way, said Nan. I knew Nan would understand. But I'm not going to stop taking the anti-rejection treatments, I said. They'll just slow down the process. They won't stop it, Dr. Bryce protested. Dr. Bryce protested vehemently. Cameron, your body will still reject your heart. All you'll do is buy yourself a few more months. That's all I want, I smiled. I want to be able to say goodbye to Alex in person. I don't think you've thought this through, Dr. Bryce began. I tuned him out of my head. I looked up at Nan. She smiled at me and took my hand. I want to speak to Cameron alone. Could you all disappear for a while? She said. Reluctantly, Mum, Dad, and the others left my bedside. You do understand, don't you, Nan? I asked anxiously. I hadn't been wrong about that, had I? Oh, yes. Nan sat down on the side of my bed. You set yourself a goal, and now you've achieved it. You've touched the bottom of the swimming pool. Something in her voice kept me silent. It's a shame you never knew your grandfather. You were named after him, you know. I nodded. Yes, I know. He died of lung cancer. I knew that too. What was Nan driving at? He wanted to live so much. He tried everything. He finally gave up his precious cigarettes, although he left that too late. He had chemotherapy, drugs, you name it. He tried it. He wasn't going to give up. And you think that's what I'm doing? Well, you've touched the bottom of the swimming pool, Nan smiled. What else have you got to live for? What else is there worth fighting for? I frowned at her. That's not how it is. I know, Nan said gently. You feel sick, and we both know you'll probably get sicker. You're in pain, and it'll probably get worse. Is this meant to make me change my mind? I raised my eyebrows. It's meant to make you think, Cameron. Cameron, life is very, very precious. Don't let go of it. I watched my granddad fight and lose, but at least he fought. He fought every step of the way. Can you say the same? I turned my head away from her, disappointed. Nan's gentle fingers turned my head to face her again. Cameron, you've touched the bottom of the pool, and good for you. If that's what keeps you going, find another challenge, and another one after that, and another one after that. I'm not going to lose you too. Besides, the world needs more Camerons. I looked at Nan. My eyes were hurting. I'm so tired, I whispered. I know. And I'm scared, I admitted. I know that too. But Cameron, dear, you're allowed to be scared. You're just not allowed to give up, not without a good fight. So put your fists up and come out slugging. Silence. I can't. I turned my head away again. Cameron. No, Nan. I've tried and I can't. I faced her, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I don't want to drag this out any longer than necessary. Please don't ask me to. Once I've seen Alex, I'll be happy. Nan leaned back in her chair. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. Her face was a mask as she studied me, but I knew she was disappointed. She sighed and stood up. Cameron, I could talk to you until I'm blue, green, and purple in the face, but it wouldn't make any difference, she said. I would give my life if it meant you'd be well again, but it doesn't work that way. You have to want it. You have to fight. No one can do it for you, not even me. Just now, you said to the doctors... 1 second. Just now, you said to the doctors that I was fighting in my own way, I reminded her. Lying on your bed feeling sorry for yourself and getting ready to give up is one way of fighting. The easiest, the least productive, saddest way, Nan told me. It's accepting things that are really... it's accepting things as they really are, that's all. Rubbish, Nan retorted. But you'll change your mind. I believe in your strength and your common sense. But as I said before, the final decision has to be yours. Just don't let me down or I'll have to give you a good swift kick. And I can do it too. Now let me go and get your mum and dad. You have to decide what you're going to tell them. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand as I watched Nan leave, touching the bottom of the pool. It seemed so silly now. It was hardly in the same league as walking on the moon or discovering penicillin or something like that. But it had meant so much to me. Why? I mean, some people wanted to be millionaires when they grew up, and they spent their whole lives trying to achieve that goal. Some people wanted children. Some wanted to be doctors or lawyers or to drive a fire engine. Maybe deep down, so deep down that even I wasn't consciously aware of it. I had never expected this operation to work. Was that it? Or maybe I'd begun to suspect that something was going wrong in the last couple of weeks. Is that why I came up with something just outside my grasp? Something to work for, something difficult to achieve but not impossible? Touching the bottom of the pool was my version of walking on the moon. So what next? Nan was right. Only I could decide that one. I don't know about you, but I found that quite a hard chapter to read. So how did that make you feel, thinking that Cameron might give up? Because if he doesn't have another heart transplant, he will die, won't he? And I know we knew that at the beginning of the book when he was making the initial decision about whether to have the heart transplant or not. But we've got to know him now, haven't we? And we've got to know his journey. What do you think he should do? Everything inside of me wants him to have another heart transplant because I don't want him to die. But try and put yourself in his shoes. Do you think he's making the right decision by not having another heart transplant? Even if you don't think he's making the right decision, can you understand where he's coming from? And what do you think about the role of Nan? She's got quite an important role in his life, hasn't she? So do a little bit of that text to self. Is there someone in your life that you have that sort of relationship with that you think could talk you round if you were facing a difficult decision? Right, I'll leave it there and I will see you tomorrow. And as always, please let me know what your thoughts are about the chapter we've just read. And I'll see you soon.